third spot. It's Watson. 1, 2, 3. One-man band is it all of the way. There'll be skyrockets over Red Roofs tonight. One-man band, one to get off in mile, completely out of gas. Dark Kip's thrown it away. Math Moon and Thunderstruck join him. Math Moon wins the Dubai Kahela Classic. Math Moon has beaten Thunderstruck, Photo third. The errant Dark Kip or Hadassah. Then.
Hello everyone and welcome back. Well, welcome to the first meeting at the carnival. We are here with two very special guests. Would you like to introduce yourself first, Callum?
My name's Callum Adele. I work for Timeform full time as well, supposedly the Dubai expert, but I'm not sure about that title. And it's my first time on the old podcast, so it's good to be here. And
we have a good guest, I guess we could say. Would you like to introduce yourself, Gary?
Yeah, I'm Gary Kaywell. I work as a freelance broadcaster and commentator for quite a few different organisations, and I spent a year working out in Dubai for the Dubai Racing Channel, I think 4 years ago now. Seems like a long time ago, but yeah, and I spent plenty of time out there as well covering the Arabian racing too.
Alright, cheers. Of course, my name's Alex. This is the Al Maktoum fan club, of course, yes. And we're going to dive straight into it. We're going to look at the Arabians and the analysing Arabian corner with Gary. If you'd like to go ahead.
Well, I thought Callum should go first for this race.
No, it's all yours, mate. The floor's all yours.
Well, usually I think I've got some sort of an advantage in these type of races, but I look at this and I just get a headache. Obviously, we've got the last two Kahela Classic winners in there, Manark and AF Math Moon. Math Moon's not carrying a penalty today. He was when he was behind Sharte here last time, but Charte's just got the plum draw. He seems to get the good draw every time. He's drawn stall one again. He was getting £3 from Math Moon when he won here a Group 2 contest over 7 furlongs on his seasonal return. I think Math Moon will probably reverse the form, but you've got some interesting other horses in attendance as well. Obviously, Manark, who's having his first run for a while. RB Byrne, who won on his UAE debut. That was on turf at Abu Dhabi, the richest Arab race in the world. Sauternes Al Morio, I think, will probably reverse recent form with Bombay to the Faust, who's drawn out in the car park. I thought it was a horrible race, to be perfectly honest. I would just favour Math Moon over Charter, but you've got to respect Charter because he's going to be drawn to attack from stall one, and he may well take some pegging back, but I'll just go for the younger grey Math Moon to get the better of him, but it would be very tentative.
I like it. The colours of blue and white already. Jim Crowley to get off to a flyer. You got any thoughts on this, Callum?
With Jim just before Christmas about him having to ride quite a few Arabians, and he's 1 from 1 on Arabians in the UK in recent years. So.
Do you know what Arabian that was?
I'll find out for you in 1 second. I'll have to consult my stats from my computer.
Do you have any thoughts on this at all, Callum?
Yeah, I got some strong thoughts. I think we should move on.
Okay, fair enough. I think Shake Down will have a 1, 2, 3 in this. We'll go all out. AF Math Moon to beat Sultan's Anamori, and then Bombay to do Faust in third. Shati at long last, but can only hope.
Telling fibs, actually. He's 1 from 5, I beg your pardon. That's since 2007, but most of them were on big priced horses, but he did win a handicap on the big Dubai day at Newbury back in 2012, so there we go. So he has got some experience, at least, Jim, on the Arabians.
Lovely. See, that's the sort of insight we get. I mean, you can't beat it, really. Okay, should we swiftly move on, because
Go on, go ahead.
Okay, we're going to the Longies La Grande Classique. So it's a 1 mile 4 furlong for 3-year-olds and above. 11 go to post here. We'll go to you, Callum, first of all.
Yeah, I didn't mean to be too disrespectful over the Arabians. I just have very little to add to them. I didn't think this was a very good race, to be honest. The first carnival race of the season, and it's a pretty poor contest. There's quite a few horses that have been racing on dirt. Quite a few horses that have got significant stamina doubts. I fell on Carven Dating, and I would never have thought I'd have fancied Carbon Dating off a mark of 97 one day, but he's won his last two. I thought he won really nicely at Abu Dhabi last time. It was a weak race last time. It's a bit stronger this time, and I thought he was the one that ticks more boxes than the rest. I think this Indian horse, this Desert God's very interesting. Not a clue what his form is like, but he seems to be winning all the time. I think he's won his last 9. I think he's won 12 of his 17 starts in India. So he's a complete unknown. I think it's a stab in the dark, a mark of 100. You don't know if that could be extreme well handicapped, or he could be completely outclassed. You don't know. I don't know if there's much pace on either. I thought that a horse I thought was quite interesting was potentially Rio Tigre, who's got some good form around Maidan in the last couple of seasons. I think he was second to Al Munkith in the Group 3 Nadal Shiba Trophy back in 2015. He showed like he had quite a bit of ability left last year over it slightly further. I would want to see a good gallop on, and he's never won for Salim bin Gadais, and his all 3 wins came when he was trained in France, but he's on a good mark for the start of the year. So if they do go a decent clip, I think he'll be involved. But I thought Carbon Dating ticked the most boxes in a race where a lot don't convince.
I can agree with that. I definitely can agree with that. The one I don't know why, but I keep coming back to Zane Eagle myself. I think second season in Dubai, he's slowly going down the weights massively. He was off a mark of 97 last season. Now he's off 83 on the dirt. So I think he has good each way claims. What do you think of the race, Gary?
Well, he's potentially one of the few pace angles in the race, along with Doug Watson's other runner, Shamal Nibras, who won the National Day Cup prep at Abu Dhabi before finishing second there in that race behind Championship, who runs later on in the card. But he's off a career-high mark, so that put me off him. Zane Eagle, as you point out, yet to win out in the UAE, but he can lead in his races, which might well be an advantage here, because, like Callum said, I can't see really any front-runner. As Callum points out, Carbon Dating's won his last 2, but he's now off a career-high mark as well. And I think Callum hit it on the nail on the head when he said, I don't think this is a particularly strong race. I mean, I actually went with the Indian runner just about. Obviously, he's making his handicap debut. I haven't a clue what the form is worth, but, I mean, he's won his last 9. 6 of them were Group 1s. What they would be, I've no idea. But David Allen, crucially, he's ridden him a lot out there as well. He's 6 from 8 on the horse as well. So, and he's never finished out of the first 5 in his career. I don't know. I thought I'd be willing to take a chance on him. The trainer had a couple of horses that were placed at the carnival a couple of years ago, I seem to remember. Might have been when I was out there, actually. It might be a bit further back than that. But I would have probably just gone for Desert God. But well, I'd want to see what the prices were like first, to be perfectly honest. But the pin went down just about on him.
Fair enough, yeah. Sporting Life give him a 5-2, which could be somewhat good, I guess. But you don't have a clue. I think the dark horse
involved, and there will be with a lot of these prices, a lot of these races that are being priced up. There's always going to be an element of guesswork involved from certain bookmakers. It's worth keeping an eye out for where these races are priced up originally, because there could be a bit of value there was last year.
Yes, exactly. I think the dark horse in this race could possibly be Good Trip. Won last time out at Jebel Ali against Sharp Harlow. Good enough form, I think. Up £5, but considering he won by a length and a half, I don't think that will stop him. And I mean, it depends on how good he is on the turf, because he hasn't really shown a lot. But we'll see how he does. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I wasn't convinced he would stay, to be honest. That was what concerned me.
Yeah. So, Callum's gone for Carbon Dating, Gary's gone for Desert God, and I'm going to go for Zane Eagle for the plunge, I guess. So, I think we'll move on to the third, and we're nearly halfway through the race card already. We got the Longines Passion in Equestrian Handicap, a good runner in here. Grade 2 winner in America, I think, with Sultan Dubai. Gary, who stood out to you here?
Well, you've got to start with Sultan in Dubai, haven't you? Because obviously he's won 4 of his 6 starts in Argentina. Last 3 were all over a little bit further than this as well. And he ran in a Grade 1 the last time he was seen. He makes his handicap debut again. How the handicapper can judge a mark here of 113, I have absolutely no idea. The question mark with him would be, however, like a lot I think we're going to find out with Mike the Cock's horses. Last year, they all tended to need the run. I think one of the old horses might have been Shanshaw's or Florrie's Waltz might have been the only one that won first up. But how he performs, it will be a big indication to a lot of the Cock runners later on in the card. I've no idea. I mean, like I say, the standard of his form, because it's my Argentinian form wouldn't be the best. So, I mean, again, it will depend on how the race is priced up for me to how you'd probably play the race. Stormbelt obviously won here in the listed contest over 10 furlongs here. That was a personal best from him, and he's gone up to a career high mark now as well. That was a particularly strong race, I must admit, though. Top Clearance is obviously second behind him on that occasion. He ran on well in the closing stages. I think there's more to come from him, but again, whether he wants quite so far as this, I'm not just sure. Honestly, I haven't really got a clue with this race. It will all depend on what sort of price Salter in Dubai is, because that will be a big indicator to the price of some of the others. I honestly don't really have a strong opinion on this race. It must be said. I think Callum might have a stronger opinion than I.
Do you indeed, Callum?
Not a particularly strong one. It is quite a tricky event. It does a lot depend on Salter in Dubai. I thought it was interesting that Salter in Dubai runs in the handicap, and the other South American raider from Mike de Kock, Lindo Amor, is actually in the Al Maktoum Challenge, despite the fact officially it's rated £5 lower than Salter in Dubai. Don't know what to read into that. I think Salter in Dubai had to be a very good horse to win first time up, simple as. They often do need to run these horses that have come from abroad for Mike de Kock, and I don't see why this is going to be any different. And if he does, I think he's going to have to be extremely, extremely good. Stormbelt, I think I would expect probably to be heading the market after a wide margin win in a listed race last time around this trip. He had a couple of these in behind, but he had everything go right that day. I thought he got the rail run. He had everything that could have possibly gone right go right. And I wouldn't be totally convinced on better terms with a couple of rivals that are on better terms than him that he can confirm that form if he's in the same form. So in terms of a more value play, I'd probably look at something like Top Clearance, who won at the Carnival last season over a mile. I think he's potentially got a bit more to offer this season. I thought he ran quite well from a wide post last time behind Stormbelt, and I thought Trinity Force potentially at the bottom of the weights, who was not far behind Top Clearance in the same race back in third. Horse that potentially has a bit more to offer on dirt, given he's so lightly racing the surface and seems to take to it quite well. So David, the ones in terms of a bet, I have to depend on the prices, but Top Clearance to I'll be looking at potentially each way or something like that.
Good stuff, yeah. I think I'm more inclined to look at Stormbelt. He's got the plum draw, only up £6 for an over 6-length win. It all depends on what Salter in Dubai is doing, as Gary said and noted here before. I can't not look at Mizbar. Might be out of the weights here a little bit, considering he was a mark of 87 when last winning. But if getting the run of the race, Sam Hitchcock does quite well when he's on the second string, as we've seen before. Sharpalo would be another one I'd say to look at, as I said in the last race. But for me, probably I'd be going with Stormbelt in the race. Well, who are you two picking again?
I'll probably just go for the Top Clearance. I tipped him when he won here on his second start out in the UAE. Again, like it says, it'll all completely depend on the price of how I play the race, but I'll be disappointed if he can't be close at least to the frame. And he's drawn fairly well towards the inside, because it's a fairly quick run to the turn here over the 9.5 furlong trip. They're only sort of a half furlong or a little bit further before they get to the bend, so it's crucial to get a decent early position.
Yeah, big Top Clearance for me as well. For exactly the same comment, really.
2 for Top Clearance, 1 for Stormbelt then. Alright. And then we move on to the Longines Master Collection, the first real sprint on the day, and well, in the Carnival really. I of course am looking at Ertijau and Fit Young. Both were 2 exceptional racehorses last season in the Carnival, and quite upset that I couldn't see Ertijau win when I went to Dubai, but wasn't to be against buffering. Maybe in the future. I'm looking at Mubtaga here down the weights as well for His Highness Sheikh Hamdan. So Max, for me, was a massive price if Sporting Life did actually get it right. 14-1 they're saying, and then Line of Reason looks quite big as well. And Roy de Fetis 16s. You like Roy de Fetis, don't you, Callum?
Yeah, again, it's a race that, in terms of, I think, will win is different to what I will probably bet just on prices. Wild of a Test is a horse that is always overpriced to me. One of my absolute favourites. I often back for a place, and he often comes in. I think he came in twice last year behind Ertagel back in February, and behind Maximilian back in 2 weeks after that. So he's had a recent run as well. So I think he'll be potentially overpriced, and there's a lot of pace on here, which will suit him. It all revolves around Ertagel for me. Now, I went through the race initially thinking I'm really happy to take him on first time out off such a big weight. And then you look at his form, you think, well, he absolutely bolted up off 113, beating Fit Yarn back in February. He's only £3 higher, and this is a genuine Group 1 high-class performer. I think it'll be interesting to see, because there's a lot of the races are now over 6 furlongs rather than 5 furlongs, how he's going to be campaigned this year. And because there may potentially be a lack of opportunities, or maybe his actual target will be the Maidan Sprint on Super Saturday rather than the Alquoz, because he is a proper 5 furlong speed ball. Well, he comfortably gets 6 furlongs. 5 furlongs ideally is his trip. So a lot of the race revolves around him. I could easily see him bolting up. I can easily see him needing a run, and he's going to take a fair chunk out of the market. So in terms of betting wise, I'd look at a few others like Roi de Vitesse. I think Mubtagar is quite interesting. Didn't really cut much ice last year, but he was pretty useful for William Haggis. He's always a horse I thought would take to racing in Dubai. Maybe that extra season off has done in the world of good. And Sir Maximilian originally was my fancy. It's quite a tough ride. He's a horse that needs a lot to fall right for him, but he's dropped to a really good mark. I think he's £4 than when winning here back in February. He also won the Maidan Sprint the year before, and he's not been running too badly at all. He's had a couple of runs on the all-weather, which will make him just put him spot on for this. But it's just I would like to have seen a jockey that is in well on him, because he is a tough ride. I think Pat Dobbs got on really well with him last year. I don't think Tiger O'Shea's ridden him before, and I think that'd be a slight concern for me. But he will get the pace to run at, so I will consider him. I'll say Ertagel will win though, and Roi de Vitesse, Maximilian and Mubtagar are interesting elsewhere.
Fantastic. We're basically twins in this one. What about you, Gary? Who do you like?
Oh yeah, I mean, I looked at it originally thinking, like Callum, I wanted to really take Ertagel on, but the more I went through it, I mean, there's lots of early pace. I mean, Ertagel, Caspian Prince, the Happy Prince, who's making his UAE debut, led in the past, Spirit Quartz, likewise. So there's plenty of early pace on, but I think Ertagel, I think his class is just going to get him through. I don't see any other sort of Group 1 performer in the field, and I genuinely think he probably is. Obviously, as Callum's pointed out, he won this race last year for an £8 a lower mark, but you know, he's won off 113 in the past when he beat Fit Yarn here after that. I mean, Fit Yarn's one of those horses that you never want to back unless he's sort of 16, 20 to 1, because that's always when he seems to pop up. I think he won here at 50 to 1, actually, when he actually won this race 3 years ago. But, I mean, depending on the prices, he could be one. And also the draw might come into it as well, because I still maintain that I think a higher draw is perhaps better. But again, it will depend on where they're racing, how wide the track is for the opening meeting of the season. Without having that sort of information to hand, I suppose that makes it a little bit more tricky. I think Wild of a Test will probably hit the frame, but he's yet to win out here in the UAE. He's not from 15, but it's always that comment that you see on his form comments, nearest finish more often than not, doesn't it? Yeah. So he does at least get involved, and he's more than likely, with the 4 places on offer, he's more than likely to get into the frame. So he's probably the each way pick, but I still think Ertagel will be too good. He'd be my tip.
Alright, so we think Jim Crowley's going to have a good night. Yeah, I'll probably pick Ertagel myself as well, just purely because he's such a classy animal, and second in the Alquoz last season. I think that'll be the main target for him again this season. And we'll move on to the 5th swiftly, the Al Maktoum Challenge. I should be doing a challenge myself on Twitter, of course, as being the Al Maktoum fan club. So make sure you look out for that to win some cracking prizes I've got lined up for everyone. But we see Emotionless go onto the dirt for the first time. Charmadales usually handle it, but obviously anything can happen if they're trying it out for the first time. What do you think of Emotionless's chances, Gary?
Yeah, I'm not convinced. I've got to be honest. Obviously, there was a lot made about how they campaigned him in the over here. Last year now. Obviously, he looked very impressive on his first two starts of his career, and then he rather bombed out in the Dewhurst, and they had trouble. They wanted to take their time with him and try and make sure he was 100% right. It didn't really happen for him last year. I mean, he was fifth in the St James's Palace and well beaten at Goodwood after that. Should handle the surface, but I'm not completely convinced about him. They've obviously tried to take their time with him. It'll work one or two ways. It'll work out as a bit of training, a genius bit of training from Charlie Appleby, or it could well be he's not perhaps as good as they first thought. I would probably just lean in the latter camp, to be perfectly honest. And he's drawn 10 of 10 here as well, which might actually not be a bad thing because he could be kept out wide. So I'm just not convinced about him. He's opposable for me.
Fair enough. If not him, who would you have?
Fitzgerald. He clocked an unbelievable speed figure when he won here the last day. He was drawn 12 of 12 on that occasion. He's a lot better drawn today. Interestingly, they take the blinkers off. I thought that was a bit odd. But he's never been out the first three in his 7 runs out in the UAE. I think he continues to be underestimated in the market, and hopefully that'll be the case again. With LeBernardin and Munasa probably likely to take each other on from stall 1 and 2. I'm not completely convinced about Cowboy getting an out-and-out gallop over a mile here, for all that he has won over this distance. The visor goes on him, actually, for the first time, which make him interesting. And obviously we've got Polar River, who carried all before her last year, winning the UAE 1000 Guineas and the Oaks, second in the Derby, which I'm sure Pat Dobbs will probably admit wasn't his finest hour, but was very disappointing on her seasonal return behind Need to Know. She's obviously better than that. How much she has improved for the run, I know Doug Watson thought she would improve a good deal for the run, and I think going back down to a mile is a good idea with her. But I don't know about her mark, whether she quite deserves that, to be perfectly honest. So I'd pass her over as well, and yeah, I'll stick with Fitzgerald.
I like it. And Callum, you got any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement, to be honest. I think Fitzgerald could be a smashing bet here. Obviously, you got to wait till the prices. There was actually an anti-post book up for this race, and Fitzgerald was in at 12-1, which was just absolutely ridiculous price. If he's any sort of price like that for this race, then I think that's one of the bets of the season, really. Really impressed with him last time, was wide, and did it extremely well. He's a horse I've always liked, to be honest. I thought he made a real big impression on me quite early on last season. I didn't expect at all for him to win like he did last time, otherwise I'd backed him at 33-1. But I thought he was very impressive. Atman Bin Hamas just had a wonderful start to the season. I think this will really top it off. Emotionless, very happy to take him on. I'm not a fan. I must say, I'm not a fan of Shamadels on dirt. I just, for some reason, I don't really like him on dirt. On the dam side, he's very much bred for dirt. He's got dirt performers going right through. These half brothers Etched and Out of Bounds, which are both US graded performers. But he's a fragile horse. He's clearly had his problems. He just doesn't strike me as a dirt horse, and they've clearly had a lot of issues with him. He didn't look right last year. I remember seeing him at Goodwood, and he didn't look a well horse, unfortunately. I'd like to see them come back with him, but he won't be carrying my money whatsoever. Polar River, again, she's going to take a fair chunk out of the market, and I'd like to see her bounce back, but I thought it was a very disappointing return, which she really was entitled to win. And for all Doug Watson's, plenty of them come on for the run, I thought it was really disappointing. You look back at her form last year as well, and it doesn't look particularly good. Visually it was very impressive, but what has she beat? I don't think she's beaten anything of any sort of class in this field. So if she's going to take a fair chunk out of the market, I'm very happy to take her on, and it makes it a good betting race. Horses like LeBernardin, Cool Cowboy, solid sticks around here. Cool Cowboy, he travelled like the winner in that race behind Fitzgerald last time and didn't really find much. So I'm interested to see. I think they put a visor on, so I'll be interested to see how he gets on. LeBernardin, I think he may have had one hard race too many, potentially. He's an 8-year-old now. I don't know what else I really fancy. I think Fitzgerald is potentially a standout bet in this field, so he's very much the pick for me.
Lovely. All right, so 2 for Fitzgerald. I think I'm going to be a little bit different. Munasa, I'm not going to probably pick in the race, but it's interesting to know he's got tongue tie for the first time. He should bounce back from his recent run. Now he's fit. He was quite underestimated last season, and now this season he's in his second season in the UAE. I think he'll improve bundles. Le Bernardin's going to jump out, and I reckon he'll make the running. Give it a good go, whilst Polar River was only 80% cooked last time, and she should improve, but I'm not sure she's everything that she's made out to be. Whilst Cool Cowboy comes from the same yard and the Doug Watson yard, I reckon he's been found out a little bit this season as well. So, with that being said, I have to. I'm not going to agree with you on Fitzgerald, but as much as I don't want to, I think he's the more likely winner. But for me, I think Le Bernardin, he's a lovable old rogue. He's always there, and if making the run in, I reckon he'll take all the beating. And then we move on to the fifth, which is the Sing Spiel, and it's a good renewal, I think, personally. What do you think, Alan?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of quality scattered between the field. I think there's quite a few that aren't well. It is a listed race, to be fair, so there's a few that are around this sort of level, but high grade handicappers, low grade listed quality. Whereas you've got a horse in Urtejal, which is a Grade 1 winner in South Africa, won the Cape Derby, was competitive in Group 1s, Group 2s last season. I remember ran a big race first up against Forest Waltz and was third behind Tristan, fourth behind Real Steel in the Dubai Turf. And the Jebel Hatter. So I think that's very strong form. I think he's had some sort of issue since. I think he's had an injury with a fetlock. So and he's blinkers on as well, first time. So he may potentially need the run. And for that reason, I just slightly prefer Championship, who again, Ahmed bin Hamash, I think could easily win the two big races on this card. Again, a horse I thought made a big impression very quickly last season. Always well regarded when he was with Richard Hannon. Had a few problems. Came back, was a wildly impressive winner on his first start at Maidan over 7 furlongs. Ran a big race behind American Hope back in March after coming back from a disappointing run in a Group 2. And he's kicked on again this year. And I thought he was quite taken when beating Shamal Nibras in a listed race at Abu Dhabi last time. Extra furlong to contend with, I think, shouldn't really be an issue. And if so, I think this is very much going to be his target. I think this is probably going to be his main aim for the season, arguably, or maybe the next race in the sequence. But he's very much a carnival horse rather than a World Cup night horse. Whereas maybe Urtejal has bigger aims. Bar him, I thought Silent Attack, if he could step up, was fairly interesting. And maybe Gabriel to pick up the pieces in behind, but. I think Championship and Urtejal were stand out by some way, and I do prefer Championship out the pair.
Wonderful. So I've just realised, Light the Lights is the runner who went to America for Sheikh Mohammed bin Khalifa. Apologies. Yes, Gary. Any thoughts? Who's standing out here for you?
Well, again, it'll depend on the prices, but we saw last year the carnival that the form away from Maidan is often overlooked, and I think that will be completely the case with Championship, who won the National Day Cup, as Callum points out. This is a typical horse out in Dubai who did okay last year, but seems to have thrived for having the whole summer out there. Obviously, he was third in the prep for the National Day Cup, which was pretty much just that for him, where he was drawn right on the outside as well, and he stole 15. Okay, he had the plum draw when he won that race, but even still, he won by a length and a half, and he won very, very comfortably indeed. I think he'll probably be a fair price as well. So I think from a punting point of view, he'd definitely be the one. The worry with Urtejal, obviously, Callum said they think they've had some sort of injury with him, which would be a bit of a concern. Light the Lights is probably likely to need the run. I would have thought been off the track for the best, just over a year, I think, isn't it? Silent Attack. The cheap piece has gone for the first time. I think he is quite interesting. I think his mark probably underestimates him, so I think he'd be one to keep an eye on. Silent Attack. We could see Pat Cosgrave back there and riding after what happened out in the UAE a few years ago. He's paid his fine, so he's okay to ride out there again. As I said, the cheap piece on for the first time, make him interesting, but again, from a punting point of view, I think Championship will be a decent price and overlooked in the market, so he'd be the each-way pick for me.
Wonderful. Yeah, with Silent Attack, I think it's quite interesting that side hasn't used William, Mr. Buick that is, and I think Gabriel and Mr. Buick could do some sort of danger. They could be a danger to championship, whilst Dormello should come on for the run for Druba, but they've been in no form whatsoever, and I'm more inclined to look elsewhere really. Light the Lights has obviously been impressive out in America. Mark of 110, whilst Tijal's on 113. So, I mean, it's not the easiest of races to pick, and as you say, Championship is probably the best each way. But for me, I'm going to go with Silent Attack here, who's probably being overlooked a little bit in terms of the ratings. And then we go on to the Dulce Vita Handicap. I'm going to call it Dulce. The 7 furlong race, where His Highness Sheikh Hamdan has just the 6. Yeah.
Looks like an Arab. It does.
Just the 6 horses in there. Jim Crowley's obviously gone with Gamma. It's a good enough choice. He did win. I'm pretty sure he won on this meeting.
He won this race.
Yeah. Okay.
Or the equivalent.
Yeah, and he's a good horse. I love him. He's the only thing is he's top of the weights now, which isn't going to help him against horses who are younger and probably more improving than he is. Banadir is partnered by Dane O'Neill, who could win first time up, but usually Mike DeCote's come on for the run. And the other 4-3 in the race, they look like they may need the run themselves, while Sheishi is fit, but I'm not totally impressed myself. Gary, anyone you fancy here at all?
Well, I mean, Gamma, we'll start with Gamma, because obviously, yeah, he won the race last year off a £10 lower mark. I think this is a stronger renewal, though, unfortunately for him. He's the obvious pace angler in the race, and he's fairly well drawn, I suppose, from stall 6 to attack. Obviously, it'll be the first time that Jim Crowley's rode him, but he's a fairly straightforward horse. Just kick him in the belly and go from the front. There's a few that have got bad draws. I mean, there's 16 of them here. 7 it's not actually that far onto the turn. I'm fascinated, and I'd really like to know, I suppose, if he stayed out in the UAE all summer. American Hope, who probably should have won on dirt here when he got beat by Top Clearance on his UAE debut. He'd been quite frustrating his horse, really, because he came with a fairly sort of lofty sort of reputation for all that he'd only managed to win the one race. I mean, he was highly tried in some decent handicaps when he was trained by, I think it was Mike Murphy. But he did manage to win out here on his final start over this course and distance, off a mark of 105. The hood is back on, which I think will definitely help him. As I said, I'd be fascinated to know if he spent the whole summer out in the UAE, because if he has, for me, that would make him a more confident pick. But for me, he's still going to be the pick anyway, American Hope.
Lovely, sweet. And Callum, you got any thoughts?
This is dangerous, because me and Capers have agreed on way too much. Yeah, I actually thought American Hope was by some way the most interesting. I know it's quite a big field, but I think he stands out a mile over the rest of them. A horse I've always rated quite highly. Like you said, he's always had a reputation for Mike. When he was with Mike Murphy, he was an expensive purchase. I think he cost $250,000, and he probably deserved that price tag, because he's a horse that has always had that sort of potential, and he's never really realised it. And I think this is the time he will. He never really seemed happy on the dirt, and it was just his ability that got him so close, I think twice, and then switched to the turf. I thought he was very impressive, and beating Championship, which is form which has worked out a treat subsequently. £5 higher here. I can't stop him, and I'd be fairly certain that he has been out there throughout the year. Because I was slightly surprised he wasn't seen in Britain over the summer, but he may have just been kept for the carnival, because he's just the type to absolutely thrive this carnival. One I'll be keeping a very close eye on throughout. I think he's a good draw as well, so I think he'll take a serious amount of beating. Bar him, quite a few poorly handicapped at the top there that go well here. Gamma, Anna Arobio, previous winners of this race as well, both of them. Feet Solomon, I think, wide draw. Have to take him on. Flashfire, I think, is interesting. Obvious claims, goes well fresh. Looks at a fair enough mark. Lost his way a little bit at the end of the year, but had some fantastic runs, was on the go for a lot of the year. So having to excuse his recent efforts, I think he'll get back on the up and probably the main danger to the select. Thought was a lot of pace on. Thought that was worth mentioning. Horse like Arcanada likes to go forward. Mastermind, Banadir, Salatine, another British runner, likes to go forward. Go further down. The two that interested me at prices potentially. Thought Mutawathir's got the ability to go well. I think a well-run race will suit him. A horse that goes well in big field races. He's behind Flash Fire in the Victoria Cup. He was third behind Golden Steps in the Bunbury Cup. So he's just that sort of horse that will do well out in Maidan for all. I know Simon Chris hasn't had a winner out in Maidan, has he? I don't think he's had many runners. And I thought Shaishi was interesting. Horse I did give a little bit of a mention to when I was writing the previews. Some good form on the dirt recently. His sole run over the course and distance, he actually shaped quite well in I think it was the Al Fahidi Fort. He didn't get any sort of run, but he did catch the eye. And I think that was back in maybe 2015, early 2015. But it's just worth a look, I think. Off a mark of 102, I think he's very capable. So he's the sort of horse I can see maybe being 20, 25 to 1 and being good each way value. But it's very much all about American Hope for me.
I can't do any better than that. The sort of previews I'm getting from these two. I told you they're experts and you didn't listen. Sporting Life have got Flashfire up at 20 to 1. If he goes at 20 to 1, I think me and Callum are laughing at that.
I did the price up today. I think I worked for like 105 or so, and I priced it up about 6 to 1. I think 13.
You do the prices for the Arab race?
I can imagine so. Whilst I do like Phil's Anges.
He's on.
See, I'm not very. They sound French, but I'm not French. Yeah, I think off a mark of around, is it 109? He's off. He won last time. Well, not last time up, but 2 runs ago now, beating Kanaf, and overall, I think he's just an improving sort. He may need the run. That's the only problem, but. You never know. You never know.
I suppose he could be overpriced because the draw isn't really a massive negative for him because of his run style anyway. He's always held up, so it just means he'll need luck in running. But he potentially, again, like a lot of Ali Jan's runners, could go off overpriced.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think we're all in agreement or whatever for American Hope. Christophe Simeon riding for Saeed should have a cracking chance, and that's that, really. We've wrapped up all 5. Just quickly, because I know Callum's got to go. What's your nap and next best, Callum?
American Hope is my nap, and Fitzgerald is the next best.
Wonderful. Gary?
We are singing from completely the same hymn sheet, so that does not bode well for anybody.
Can only end in disaster.
Oh, dear.
I think my nap is going to be American Hope as well. Nap material there. And,
Rebel penalty!
Whilst I think Math Moon will be my next best. Get Jim Crowley off to a flyer. I'd just like to say thank you to Callum.
Pleasure.
And thank you to Mr. Capewell. Your time is very precious. Thank you. And that's it. Later. Choose a day.